Do you want to build a snowman? Hi there. In this video, I'm going to share my process for making an Olaf puppet out of a few sheets of paper. Welcome along. My name is Ben Stanley and I design and make paper puppets. And today, I'm here with my latest creation. Hi there, I'm Olaf and I love warm hugs. Hey Olaf, nice to have you here. On this channel, I share how I make working replicas of beloved Muppets, puppets, characters, and creatures. So if papercraft's your thing, please consider subscribing and liking this video. Who are you talking to? Oh, well, I'm talking to the people who are watching this video. How did they all fit in that small box? No, come back. That small box is a camera and it's recording what we're saying and then people watch it back later. Oh, like advanced technology! Our savior and our doom. Yeah, you could say that. So, let me get this straight. You're sat in a room on your own talking to a puppet in front of a non-existent audience. I think you need a hug. Yeah, when you put it like that. So, what are we showing them? Well, actually, we're showing them how to make you. Ooh, I know this. So, you're gonna need a heavy snowfall, some coal, some sticks, and a carrot. Oh, and Elsa's magic. Have you got all that? Well, I actually thought I would make you out of paper and glue. Oh, I love paper. Yeah, me too. So should we get on with it? Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, this is how to make an Olaf puppet out of paper.
So the first thing to say about this puppet construction is that I'm using paper that's 160 GSM, so that's almost like thin cardboard or very thick paper, and that definitely helps with the construction and to keep his shape once the pieces are made. So here we're looking at the face, which is always the point where I start, and I'm showing all the cuts and the folds just because it's a pretty important part of the process to get the shape of his face right. And obviously as a sort of animation, his face stretches all the time, but you know there's only a limit to what we can create, so I'll kind of try to create a face that's as true to his sort of rest-faced as possible. So having constructed the shape of the sort of front top mouth, this section here that I'm folding and gluing at the moment is to create his cheeks, the sort of back cheeks. And as with my other videos, I'm not necessarily going to show you me gluing every piece of paper, but I'll show you the important bits where I glue it together. And here I'm just scoring across some lines at the very top in order to fold it over, which we'll later be able to glue on the sort of top of his head. And then onto the nose, which is a piece of paper folded into a cone shape essentially, and then we're just going to glue that together. And it's got a bit of a bump in his nose, so I've added in this sort of almost egg shape, which if we glue it becomes a bit three-dimensional, and that's just going to stick on top to give the bump of his nose. And then we need to chop this a little bit more here so that we can put these little flaps through the two holes that we've cut in the middle of the face and just below the eyes. They go through and then they glue at the back, and that'll hold the nose in place. And you may need to do a bit of extra gluing where the carrot meets the front lip to keep the carrot more or less horizontal to the face so it's not sticking up too much. And then we're onto the jaw, and the first thing I'm doing is adding a bit of strengthener with some folded over extra paper, and that's going to go at the base of the jaw so that when we connect it to the upper body it's a bit stronger. And then it's a case of gluing and folding the paper into a cone shape, and then the base kind of slots in at the bottom, and then we'll glue with all those tabs. And it's just a reminder that the gluing process can be tricky and the bonding process takes much longer than you think, so typically you need to hold the paper together for a few minutes. And here we're just folding the straps that are going to be used to put your fingers in to open and close the mouth of the puppet. And this mouth section of the straps then gets glued into the jaw section. And I would make sure you glue the inside of the tube as well as the flaps. Now this mouth fold is going to be put under a lot of pressure as you use the puppet, so we're going to add in some strengtheners across the ends of the mouth fold to stop the mouth ripping over time. And this would have been a good point to add in the finger strap strengtheners, but sadly I didn't remember until later. And next we're going to attach the face to the top of the head. And again, this is just something that you need to take your time with. It's a bit of a fiddly process, but it should fit in quite nicely, and I've put some little guide marks in there to make it clear where it all goes. And then at the back here, we're just going to fold over again to create the sort of top of his head. And as you can see, there's a bit of a fold here to help accentuate the cheeks when you glue the back of the cheeks onto the top of the head section. And then I've added in some extra cheek sections, and these can be a bit tricky to glue in. You need to glue on both sides, and it's not a huge amount of space to glue it in, so I've added some extra strengtheners there on the back on both sides. And then we're going to glue the top of the head to the jaw, and it doesn't fit fully flush, so it sits back a little bit by just under 1 centimetre. And now we're finally adding in those finger strap strengtheners that I should have done way back in the process, and each of the 4 glue points need to have a strengthener glued on top of them. And then we're going to glue together the teeth, just fold that over there, stick it in the front. And the final bit is to glue in the kind of inner part of the mouth. As you can see, I've used a sort of dark purple, but any sort of dark blue colour could work. For the upper body, these 2 halves of a sheet of paper will be glued and folded into an octagonal / spherical shape. And this quick close-up that I'm going to show now shows you how to align all these glued sections, and this alignment is the same for all the spherical shapes you need to construct for this puppet. And again, I'm not going to show you every single bit of gluing and every single bit of holding the paper together to bond it, but you sort of get the idea. It's the same thing all the way around. So once you've decided where the front is, you need to pierce 2 holes at the 2 side sections, and we're going to strengthen those holes again with some strengtheners, and through there will go the paper fasteners, which will hold the arms into the upper body. And then we're going to glue in the top of the upper body, and again that's got holes and strengtheners in order to be able to connect the upper body to the head later on, and again that just sort of glues into place on the inside. You need to be careful to align the 2 holes with what's going to be the front of your body section. And then we're adding the arms, and my pattern for the arms allows for the paper to be folded, so it's sort of double strength, but I actually added an extra sheet of paper before I folded it so that there are actually 4 layers to each of the arms to make them a bit sturdier. So the lower body section is made out of 3 identical sheets of paper, and just make sure when you're gluing them together that you glue them all the same way up, because the top and the bottom have slightly different folds, so they all should be identical on the top and identical on the bottom. And then we're going to glue them together and do the folds as per the other section of the body. And again here we've got the top that we're going to glue in exactly the same, and again it's got strengtheners and it's got places where the wool is going to go through to connect them, and just make sure that again you align those holes with what is going to be the front of your puppet. And as well as gluing around the edge of the top section, I would also glue on the inside edge of the sort of round body section as well, just to get that extra purchase when you're bonding the 2 bits together. So next up I'm creating a strap for the back of the lower body to help with the body movement of the puppet. You start by gluing 2 strengtheners in. You'd have already made the cut in the strengthener before you glue it in, so then you use that as a guide to cut through the main body. And then you're going to thread through the strap itself, and then once you've threaded it through on both sides, you're going to glue it on the inside so it'll look nice and neat on the outside and give you lots of strength. So to attach the head to the body, I used doubled up wool, and you need to make sure that you line up the front of the face with the front of the upper body and the front of the lower body, and you should be able to tell that by the charcoal buttons that are on there. You need to make sure you knot the wool as tightly as you can when you get to that it needs to have some give so that the puppet is able to move freely, but the wool's going to stretch over time, so it's probably going to need to be tighter than you think it is. Although it's a bit fiddly to tie the knot on the inside of the head, I would recommend doing it that way so that you've got the ability to adjust it later on if you need to. And then the 2 feet are again folded in exactly the same way as the upper and lower body parts. It's just a case of gluing those all in place and creating the nice sort of spherical shape. And again, at the top of the feet where you're going to attach it to the body, you need to punch your holes and add strengtheners as per all the other parts. And so in the same way that the feet have strengtheners, of course, the base of the upper body also have strengtheners. Once we've attached the feet to the bottom section of the lower body, we're going to then add on the very bottom of the feet, and they're just going to glue on the outside because it would be too fiddly to try and glue them on the inside. And that same issue applies to gluing on the bottom section of the lower body, and so I settled on gluing the front flaps on the inside so that they look a lot better, and then the back flaps on the outside. So you're going to need patience for this bit, and as you'll see, the glue stick is really helpful to hold behind the area that you're gluing on the inside to give you something to press against that allows the paper to bond. And again, for each section you're going to need to hold the paper together for at least a minute to allow the glue to bond the paper together. And then we're on to the final touches. So we've got the eyebrows to add in. You're going to just glue the very back of the head together, and then you can add the hair in. And if you want at this point, you can add some eyeballs, some 3D eyeballs with some polystyrene, but you don't have to do that. And then the final section there is just a flap of paper that's going to help strengthen that hair at the top.
In summer! Olaf, never! No, Olaf, over here. Oh, hi! Yeah, that's it. That's how to make an Olaf puppet out of a few sheets of paper. Fascinating! Who needs Elstra's magic when you've got the magic of papercraft? That's a fair point. Well, thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. Let us know what you think about Olaf in the comments, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye!